So I used to think that oil was this like harmless, normal part of cooking, and like everyone cooked with olive oil, right? And they all said it was heart healthy, and coconut oil was like this superfood. But it turns out that's not really the case. If you're new here, I'm Carrie and I've lost 200 pounds. And I'm on a mission to finish my journey for weight loss and ultimate health. And today I'm going to show you how or why oil is an appetite stimulant. It keeps you overeating, and why, if you cut it out, it could be the best thing you've done for your health in a while. So stick around, because at the end of the video, you might just rethink everything you've been told about oil. So, I'm from the South, and I know if you know anything about the South, then you know we love to cook with grease here, or oil, whatever you want to call it. I'm not saying that for any kind of crazy stereotype, because, well, I live here, so I am just stating the truth. My grandmother, so I grew up and my grandmother would cook for us every weeknight. So my parents would go to work and then come home, and we would have dinner with them, my grandmother and grandpa, every Monday through Friday. And then during the week, she also cooked breakfast for me too. So I stayed with her during the summers and during school. And so the only time she wasn't cooking for us was like if her and my grandpa went on vacation, or she went to visit like her sisters. She had one sister in Florida and one in California. So, you know, if she was visiting them, then she didn't cook for us. But other than that, she cooked for us. And then she usually cooked with Crisco, but she also used vegetable oil too. And she put it on everything, like not even just like cooking it. Like I've seen her drizzle it on things. Like, I mean, she just used it for everything. She fried potatoes in it. She fried okra in it. She skillet fried corn in it. I think every single vegetable we ate, including green beans. I have never heard of a fried green bean, but if she didn't fry them in oil, she put them in a pot with ham and then drizzled oil on top of them. Some sort of oil was on it. And she would line pans with it, and she would cook cornbread in it. And I could go on and on and on. I can even remember this time where she would like fry bologna and potatoes. So she would put the oil in the pan, cut these little slits in the bologna so that it wouldn't like bubble, and then she would put that in the pan, fry it, take it out, put it on this paper bag that she had sitting on the counter next to the frying pan. She cut up potatoes and she would put those in the frying pan, and then she would put all of this stuff on this bag, and she would even make these hand apple pies for dessert, and of course she would fry them, and then she would put them on the counter. And that bag was so greasy. It was this dark brown color after she was finished, and it had soaked through onto the counter, and there was like a big greasy spot in the counter. I can even remember she had this film on the walls of her house. It was crazy. And I didn't correlate it at the time, but now when I look back at it, I think, well, if it's putting that film over the walls, what's it doing to your insides? Like, I wouldn't have thought about that. Of course, I was a kid, but now I really think of those things. So, and then her house also had this oily smell. Like it always smelled just like, you know, really, really, really oily. And then later she started cooking in peanut oil because someone told her it was like super healthy and that she should. So she did that. And in the world I grew up in, like, oil was in everything. And if you didn't cook with oil, people looked at you like you were crazy, and they might have just told you you were a little crazy. they'd ask questions like, well, how do you saute? How do you bake? How do you roast? All of these things. So when I started my health journey, I didn't really question oil. And I did question like deep fried things. Like I knew that was like a no-no. So I didn't want to do that. But I didn't really, question oil itself. So I switched from like some of the vegetable oils and stuff like that to avocado oil and olive oil and coconut oil. And I made, salad dressings with it and grilled vegetables in it. And, I thought I was doing everything right, especially with the coconut oil, because I went through this program here in my town that was like a Biggest Loser type program. And it was for nutrition and exercise. And they told me coconut oil was not only healthy, but it was so healthy that you must get it in like daily. So you should be using it in everything, right? Well, that's what I thought. But here was the problem. I noticed that I just really couldn't stop eating. Like I wanted more and more and more and more. So even after meals where I should have been really satisfied and really full, I felt like I just wanted a little something extra. And if there was oil in the dish, I also would, go back for more, like seconds and thirds. And I had no clue at all that the oil was working against me in that case. So one day I came across this study, and it was about oil and appetite stimulation. And it explained that oil had no fiber, no micronutrients, so it was empty calories, and that these things turned up the appestat. And because they had no fiber and micronutrients in them, and it just didn't have the ability to ratchet down your appetite. And the study also had showed that they gave they put these people in a buffet, and for half of them, they gave them an apple before they went in, and the other half, they gave them a tablespoon of oil. And then they went in and they let them, eat. And the group with the apple ate less calories, and the group with the oil ate way more calories. And so they also found, believe it or not, if they had mixed in the oil with their food, then they would have eaten even more calories on top of what they already ate. So say you normally eat 200 calories. If they mixed a tablespoon of oil into your food, then you got the 200 calories that you would normally eat, the 200 calories from the oil itself, and then they ate an additional 200 calories on top of that. So now instead of eating 200 calories, what you would have normally ate with no extra oil, now you've had 600 total calories. And I was like, whoa, that's just crazy. And oil doesn't even fill you up. It's pure fat. There's no fiber, there's no water, there's nothing to signal your body that you've had enough food. So I kind of still was on the fence. Do I really believe this study or not? So I thought, I'm going to put this to the test. So I decided one night I was going to make this healthy stir fry, right? So tons of vegetables, a little bit of tofu, and I thought I'm going to drizzle a generous bit of oil and saute everything in the oil. And I used that coconut oil because I had been told it was healthy and you should use it on everything. So I plated my plate like I normally would, and I ate it all. And then I wanted seconds. So I got another plate. And even though I was super full, I still wanted another plate. And so I thought, maybe there's something to this. So I decided maybe I should do another experiment and do it on the flip side. So for the next 30 days, I completely cut out oil, right? So we're talking about, I I steamed things, I roasted without it, and I can tell you that so much changed just from doing that. So one thing is my cravings totally disappeared. The endless need for just like one more bite, it really went away. Like I could eat a meal and feel completely satisfied and like not needing seconds and especially thirds. And my stomach felt lighter. So I think the oil had been making my digestion sluggish. And so, without it, I had, a little more energy, I had less bloating, and I just didn't have that real heavy feeling, that sits in your stomach sometimes. And then my weight actually moved. It actually budged. So oil, if you think about it, is one of the most calorie dense foods on the planet. Like a tablespoon has 120 calories, I think, in it, and it's all fat. And, without adding all of that extra calories and stuff, I just lost weight. Not night and day, but it was enough. And the craziest thing is, I thought my food was going to taste bad, but it really, really did not taste bad. It tasted like fresher and better. And, I learned how to use seasonings and lemon and, all these natural flavors that just really made my meals like super delicious without all that heavy, greasy, oil. So now I want to tell you a little bit about the science of why oil actually makes you overeat. Now, I've discussed this a little bit when we were talking about it, when I was telling you that story, but oil triggers like this, feel good, the feel good chemical, the dopamine. It does do that. So it's a little bit like processed food in that, and processed food has, oil in it, and salad dressings have oil in it, and so we've got all these heavy oil foods that make you just want to eat more, and they're really addictive, and it just really hits that brain's reward system. So it kind of it disrupts those hunger signals. So it makes it really easy to overeat. It's also pure fat, so there's no satiety in it. So if you compare it to like a whole plant-based food, it contains a whole plant food, like a potato. It has fiber and water, and it's naturally able to signal that fullness. Oil has none of that. It's just fat, nothing else. So it just kind of slips past your body's fullness sensors, so you don't even realize how much you've eaten until it's too late. So that's kind of why if you add oil to your meals, it often, ends up, of course, you eating more calories, kind of like the people in the study they did. And believe it or not, oil actually increases insulin resistance. So a lot of people think that sugar is the main culprit behind that, but oil or fat actually plays a huge role. Studies have shown that the oil will coat the cells, and it makes it harder for the insulin to do its job. So it just leads to this unstable blood sugar, and that can trigger more cravings and energy crashes and everything like that. So if you've kind of ever had a meal that's really loaded with oil or fat and you felt really hungry an hour later, then not the fat necessarily, but the oil, your blood sugar, crashes, and it's from the effect of the oil. And of course, oil's being pushed on you. And I think that's one reason why healthy oils, supposedly coconut, olive oil, are really, really pushed. It's addictive, so they can put it in all these foods. And if you use it, then you'll eat more food. And So, it just, it makes it, I think that's the reason why they really push like coconut oil is, healthy and, but it has zero nutrients and zero fiber. So the truth is that these industries really don't care about us. They just care about their bottom dollar and selling more food and more products. So, but anyway, so what can you do now? Oil is not healthy. It's not good for you. So what can you do? Well, you cut it out, but you don't know really where to start once you cut it out. So just want to give you a few steps that you can put in practice to kind of, do this if you want to try it. So you can saute without oil. It takes a little getting used to, but nothing to me really tastes different. I didn't really have a problem with this one. It was more of the roasting that took getting used to for me. But so I use veggie broth a lot, but I do use water. Like if I'm going to caramelize my onions, I'll use water. You can use coconut aminos. So you still get some extra flavor in there, but you don't have to worry about the fat. And you can also use whole food fats too. So instead of drizzling oil all over your food, try using avocados and some nuts and seeds, tahini. They'll give you the healthy fats that you actually need. Plus they have fiber and nutrients in them. So they're going to keep you full. And you can bake without it. So you don't have to oil your pans. You can use parchment paper, or you can use air fryers to get crispy textures. I've roasted vegetables with nothing. I've also spritzed a little water on them. I've done the little coconut aminos. You can also do veggie broth with those as well. And so it's really easy. And you can use silicone bakeware, but I know some people don't like to use silicone. So if you don't, then you just use the parchment paper. And be aware that there are hidden oils in everything, usually, or at least processed foods. So it's sneaky, right? So even in in whole plant food stuff like hummus, store-bought hummus has a lot of oil, believe it or not. Can you believe this? Milk. I looked at oat milk at the grocery store one day and it had oil in it. And I was like, really? Oil in oat milk? So that's when I started making my own milks, but that's for another video. Even so-called healthy granola can have, oil in them too. So you want to look for that when you're buying foods. So anyway, oil is not a health food, and it is a very big appetite stimulant, and it makes you eat more, it makes you feel hungrier, and it also will make you struggle with cravings. So if you've been trying to lose weight or get control of your food addiction, so cutting out oil could be like the missing piece of the puzzle. Remember, not about willpower. It's about removing the foods that are designed to keep you overeating. So I know when I quit oil, my body naturally adjusted. I stopped craving all this extra food, and I finally felt in control. It was so great. So if you've ever felt like that, and you've ever felt like you couldn't stop eating, try going oil free for a few weeks and just see what happens. Just try it as an experiment. You can do anything for a few weeks. So let me know in the comments, have you ever noticed how oil makes you feel hungrier? Have you ever tried to go oil free? I'd love to hear your experiences with it. And until our next conversation, let's do this thing together, and I will talk to you later. Bye, friends.